We kind of built it yesterday in studio throughout the day as bounce back week. Arch Manning bounced back against San Jose State. Alabama bounced back in their game against UL Monroe, Sunday stupids. Let's start with Arch. Early on, that thing was a 3-and-out, overthrew a guy dropped a pass, and you're like, oh, here we go. But then he threw the 89-yard touchdown to Parker Livingston, and he kind of just got rolling. There were still some spots where he needs to grow. But, Paul, I think overall, at least for this week for Arch in Texas, there's a little bit of an exhale because they put up some points, and he totaled 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, somebody asked me earlier, do I think he's a Heisman candidate? And of course, I don't think anybody can answer that. You can say yes or no, and both answers are probably about the same because the Heisman is not going to be determined right now. But the most important thing for him is he got a good game in. He's back to doing things that we expected of him. And ultimately, Arch is going to be tested when they have a good opponent, which they won't for another couple of weeks. I suspect he'll be a lot better, Matt.
Yeah, he's an interesting one because we this was ad nauseum last week about the hype and everything that was bestowed upon him that he didn't ask for. And I don't think he's ever still going to live up to that because we're going to do this every week because we have to because of the story that surrounds him. But you beat an inferior opponent. You throw some touchdown passes. You rush for another touchdown. You at least make people feel better about the taste of their food when you come off the Ohio State game. But I'm also one of those, Paul, that when you look at we've talked about this a million times. Sometimes the schedule falls right in place for everything to go your way. If Texas opens with San Jose State and they're getting ready for Ohio State in week 2, now we're having a completely different conversation. But because that was flipped, we have to look at it from a different prism of, okay, Sark has 3 weeks to get this thing back to where it needs to be. And it's going to be, I still think Texas is going to be one of the more polarizing storylines this year because the 5-star Wingo has the drops. He clearly likes Livingston, the receiver, as his number 1. CJ Baxter's back and healthy. They still have the guys, but I believe it's going to be a while until we forget about what happened in week 1. And I don't even know if that's fair.
Well, whether it is or not, you can't forget that until he does it, he undoes it. And he has to undo it on the road in the SEC. And if he does, then he can start working his way back. I mean, right now, what I got out of it, and I'm not trying to sound like goody two-shoes here, but it was fun to see him happy, exhaling, celebrating. I mean, that is ultimately what this is about in theory. But he had a rough week. He survived it. That's all that matters. I'll spare you every cliche that we've ever learned on a little league team or anywhere else. But I really still believe that he will be good. Will he be generational? I'll leave that to the experts.
We're literally going to have to go by this thing week to week with Arch because it's going to be a fun ride. And that's what I love about it because you can see the talents there. How much he does with it remains to be seen. Speaking of bounce back, that's kind of how we themed it again in studio yesterday. Say what you want. I know who they played, and I know that people are still a little angsty in Tuscaloosa, but you hang 70 plus. You do what you should do against an inferior opponent. At least things right now for Alabama. They know that they have it in them, and you can kind of not breathe a sigh of relief. It's like, okay, we can still beat the hell out of bad teams. That's a good sign if we're being positive here.
Well, it's better than the alternative. And if Alabama had gone out there and struggled and won 24-10, it would just be a continuation of an extreme week of negativity. What you do have to wonder is why it took the second week of the season for Kalen DeBoer to connect with his players. He clearly failed to do it in the first week. But sometimes, Matt, I mean, you play golf. I mean, you play one of the 5 toughest courses in America, and you can't do anything, and you go out to a muni that's made for fun, and all of a sudden you feel great about your golf game again. That's essentially what happened here. Alabama opened at Seminole, a good club down in Florida, and then they played at the Monroe Muni yesterday. Where the course where it's one of the top 25,000 courses in Louisiana. So it was made for them. I'm glad to see Alabama fans celebrating a 70 whatever victory over Monroe. It doesn't change the concerns, though, that will come back again in about 3 weeks when Alabama goes to Georgia.
Have this long off season of 222 days for the national championship. So all we do is talk and read magazines and anoint people and teams as the greatest thing ever because we have so much time. We have 6+ months to talk about it and build up the matchups. Then week one gets here. We hone in on the hugest games of the beginning of the season. Some of those don't go the way that fit our preseason narrative and storyline. And then all hell breaks loose and everything falls apart. And then you get to these week 2 games where the coaches are like, hey, can I just get my team back together? Can we just get back on the field and play a little football and just let this thing mature? Whereas it worked for Alabama, I'm not sure it was that inspiring for LSU and Georgia, where, at least from LSU's perspective, they come off the huge win against Clemson. Then they kind of played with their food a little bit yesterday against Louisiana Tech, and Georgia did the same against Austin Peay. And that's what the beautiful thing is about this sport. You can go from the highest of highs and then sit here on a Sunday morning like we do every week and scratching your head and saying, why did Georgia, why was that even close? And why did LSU do that against Louisiana Tech? And Paul, it really is just a puzzling thing how this thing works out.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you have to wonder if a coach, in this case Kirby Smart and Brian Kelly, just kept the flame in the back burner. I don't know. I'm sure they would deny that, but they both have huge games this coming week.
Yeah.
Georgia, Tennessee, obviously LSU hosting. Well, it was supposed to be a huge game against Florida, and so you just I don't know how you do that, but I mean it's like anybody in any athletic endeavor. You can go at a different skill for whatever reason. Kalen DeBoer decided to go DEFCON 1 against a team that they would have still won easily. They were a 35-point favorite. But it doesn't matter, where I don't think it matters in that case. But I think in Kelly and Kirby's case, they just kept it. They kept it low key. They kept it vanilla. They just don't want to give away anything with really big games coming up.
Well, they're above average. It was going to get them a win on Saturday anyway. It's just puzzling when you look at the score and you're like, why is that even something we have to watch? Because it's kind of close, when in reality on the field it wasn't. Did Oklahoma announce their arrival in the SEC with the win over Michigan on Saturday?
Maybe that would not be considered one of their toughest games of the year, but in terms of statement, it was probably the most important game of the year, only because had they not won, Matt, that would have been the story of the day. And Brett Venables would be on everybody's hot seat list. Instead, he's got some room to breathe, and you need that. So stay like Hugh Freeze a week ago, beating Baylor. Probably looks a little bit better today than maybe it did even 8 days ago. But everybody has that big game, and for Venables, that was game day, prime time, major opponent, and they delivered. And I think it was going to give him some room. His schedule is still insane, but he's got some juice going. He's got some fuel.
Yeah.
And he really needed it badly. And John Mateer to me looked very, very good.
Yeah, and so that we were talking about that in studio last night with EJ Manuel and Joey Galloway. Like, in this day and age in college football, it used to be that you would live and die with the recruits that you brought in. Those were your guys. And if you didn't have a veteran quarterback that you got as a true freshman and developed, or had a true freshman that just happens to be a complete superstar and it failed, that means you failed. Now you can go get a John Mateer because you're going to have defense because of the head coach's bona fides as defensive coordinator. You didn't really have an offense last year, so you bring in a new offensive coordinator. You bring in John Mateer, who I believe is probably going to start entering the Heisman Trophy conversation as the weeks go on. And it's funny, like overnight, Paul, how quickly things can change in college football now, in that your one deficiency can be fixed with a nice check and the right player and the right quarterback to fix everything.
Yeah, but I think we knew Mateer was going to be good.
Yeah.
He swagged on into media days. He looked the part, and I mean, he got the full package. He got his OC and his QB coach coming over from Washington State. That's a really good deal. But I really do believe Oklahoma will make noise. I mean, they got Auburn in 2 weeks. That is a big game, but then they get on a run with Texas and so many other opponents. But their schedule is very similar to Florida's, probably the two toughest in the SEC. But they're alive. And a year ago today, they were not. They got knocked around by Tennessee on the second week of the season. It really stopped their momentum, and this time around, Sooner fans are finally feeling good. The questions I have are more on the Michigan side and Sharon Moore. I was underwhelmed by that operation.
You want this, you got that. No way, watch them walk right past you.